And the next morning when I woke up, right, it was like $30+. I'm like, oh my god, I'm fucked, right? Yeah, so essentially I know that I was liquidated already lah.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Chain Debrief Podcast, the podcast about all things cryptocurrencies. And we can't be the podcast about all things cryptocurrencies if we do not talk about the main topic on everyone's minds at the moment, which is what is going on with Luna and Terra USD.
Cryptocurrency exchange.
Non-fungible. We only take Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency.
Today, I am joined by my two colleagues. You know and love him from the communities on both Telegram and Discord. It's Jacky Yap. And also Z, if you follow us on Twitter, he's basically the main content creator on the Chain Debrief Twitter page. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. First thoughts about what is going on with Luna and USD. Jacky?
I think it's more of a death spiral right now, is essentially what's happening lah. And I think it started 2 days ago, yesterday morning. I still remember the night before, which was Monday night, when I went to sleep, right, it was $60+, still okay. And then and the next morning when I woke up, right, it was like $30+. I'm like, oh my god, I'm fucked, right? Yeah, so essentially I know that I was liquidated already lah. Some background, I actually borrowed some money on Anchor Protocol. I collateralized most of my Luna, all of my Luna on Anchor Protocol. And then my liquidation price was at $30+. And
no.
I thought that, hey, okay, I know that it was going down. In my head, it was like, okay, I think it will go down by 20% per day. Even if it's 20%, right, then it's like, what, $40 plus $50? I can still maybe pay back the loan. It's not like I don't have the money lah, right? It's just that I borrow it and then I go and play other stuff and then I go and try to earn on Anchor Protocol, right? The 20%, right?
Yeah.
Then there was no warning. When I woke up, it was like minus 50%. I know. So essentially what really happened was that a lot of people would have collateralized their Luna, borrowed stablecoin to earn the 20%. What happened was that when there was a depegging and everyone was then lost confidence in the peg, there was some attack lah, which I think Z will be able to share a little bit more on what was the theory circulating around, right? But essentially, when the depeg happened and then more people were trying to sell, and then after that they couldn't, essentially more people got liquidated, and then trying to maintain the peg, and then everyone just got liquidated. And I think the problem was that the whole system was congested. So I wanted to repay back the loan, but I was selling a little bit of my other assets to try to save the balance of my Luna, right? And then I sold some to get some UST, which now is shit already, right? To try to pay the loan. But then it couldn't. The whole transfer took about 6 hours. At the same time, I was continuing to be liquidated. And I think the same happens for everyone, that everyone was trying to repay back their loan. It's just 2 clicks on it. So you just need to withdraw money from your from the earn feature, right, and then repay it back. But everyone couldn't because the network was congested. Nobody wants to buy the UST. There was liquidity issue, and then it forced the whole Anchor to keep on liquidating. And as more Anchor liquidate all of the Luna, then Luna price keep on crashing again and again because it was forced selling. I didn't want to sell my Luna, and because of Anchors, there was a very big wick lah, from $50+, $40+, to $30+, right? It was very, very quick. Everything was like magnified by the whole Anchor Protocol liquidation thing lah. And it's still happening right now lah.
I think there were some stats. So like CoinDesk reported about, I think when we started on the weekend, Anchor had about $13 billion worth of USD deposits. So these are like TVLs, right? And then that dropped to about 6 billion. So about half of it was withdrawn over the weekend. But yeah, I think like Jacky mentioned, Z, I think there are a couple of speculations going around about what exactly is happening. Again, these are speculations. Nothing has been confirmed. But what is currently being said about what has happened?
Let's go back through how the UST Luna peg works. For those that don't really know lah. So basically, right, Luna is pegged to its stablecoin, which is called UST. And how UST works is basically it works differently from other stablecoins like USDC, USDT, who are all actually backed by real world treasury assets. UST is actually backed by algorithmically onto the Luna price itself. So how it works is basically the system relies on people traders burning or creating Luna and or UST to maintain the peg. So every time a UST token is minted, an equivalent like $1 in Luna is also burned lah, and also vice versa. So basically, whenever it depegs, let's say 1 UST equals to 1.01 Luna, there's like an arbitrage opportunity there. In a proper market, people actually arbitrage it lah, and then the price will go back 1 to 1. So it's pegged.
Yeah, people are incentivized in that sense. Yeah.
Correct. So I think right now, the issue is that there's rumors going around that people actually, someone or some parties actually manipulated the market to a point that the peg doesn't really hold. Even if there's people trying to arbitrage it, right, it still doesn't go back to a 1-to-1 peg.
Yeah.
So right now, I think like UST is, I think of this point of the podcast is like 30 cents. They're supposed to be $1. One of the rumors that people actually are talking about is it might be an attack from Justin Sun. So if you guys don't know, Justin Sun is Tron's co-founder. Tron is another blockchain. They were like started off, I think, back in the early years of like crypto scene lah, like 2017, 2016, around there. They weren't really that popular, but then I think recently, a few weeks ago, they announced that they are gonna come up with their own algorithmic stablecoin, USDD. So basically, the mechanics, how it works, exactly the same as UST on Terra, and people are speculating that since they have the same mechanics, they are actually a direct competitor to Luna and UST itself. And I think some people actually, they went to do some digging. They speculate that Justin Sun was actually one of the people that actually caused this whole crash, because I think before this whole crash happened, like Justin Sun actually tweeted that he's gonna buy some UST. Yeah, so people speculate that he bought the UST. He bought this very, very large amount of UST just so he can dump it and cause this whole death spiral to happen. As you all know, like UST, they offer like 20% APY on Anchor, around 20% lah. So I think one thing which Tron came up with also, they decided to offer a 30% APY on their stablecoin USDD. So which even strengthens the case of Justin Sun being a probable cause of the whole event lah. And I think on the other side of the scale, there was also another rumor going on that Citadel, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a very big fund which in previous years, the probable cause of many similar events, like for example the Robinhood, GameStop fiasco, everything that happened, people speculate that Citadel was behind it. And also right now, I mean, there are rumors coming out where they say Citadel also caused this whole Luna liquidation event. So there's this thread on Reddit going around. They basically just listed out all the steps which Citadel took to cause this whole event lah. So basically, they speculate that Citadel, they borrowed 100,000 Bitcoin, and then they traded like a quarter of it for UST, and then after that they opened a short. And they straight away they just dumped BTC. So when BTC price dropped to almost around 30k, they started dumping UST to make the peg between UST and Luna, like make it depeg lah basically. Then after that, like since it depeg, Dokon, they have to repeg it, and the only way they can repeg it is sell their BTC reserves. After selling BTC reserves, BTC dropped even further. Then throughout the whole stage, Citadel was just shorting everything, and then when the peg started to recover, they closed the short and then they long back. So they're just riding all the waves. They're riding everything all the way and just profiting the whole way while everyone's just losing money lah, in a sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so now, like you mentioned, I think it's USD is hovering about 30 to 40 cents at the time of filming. Luna in itself is going from about $4 to $5, which is crazy given that it was about $100 just a couple of weeks ago. So I think a lot of people have lost a lot of value in their portfolio just by holding a loan, while like Jacky kind of alluded to, a lot of people are also kind of leveraging off the Anchor protocol lending system. How about you yourself? Like, have you been liquidated as well?
Yeah, so I think I didn't really borrow funds from Anchor like Jacky did. I think I did even more degen strat lah. So I just did futures.
Wow.
So what I did was I long Luna. Because I think general consensus is that people don't dare to short Luna lah, because Luna was so strong, community so strong, founder also like very capable. So when Luna dipped to like $60, I longed it. And now I just got liquidated. How it happened was that whenever I do futures, I set a cap for my account. Then the cap is $500. So basically build this account up to like I think 5,000 USD. Then with that whole account, I leverage long Luna. then now it's gone to 0.
Oh my goodness.
Bye bye 5K.
Bye bye 5K. For me, so I mainly have been holding Luna. And I think seeing from its all-time highs till now, I think I've lost about 60% value of my portfolio, which is like crazy lah. And I mean portfolio from my original capital. So like I think a lot of people are in the same boat also. I think people in this region have been quite like fairly bullish on Luna. A lot of people I know bought at 30. I know a lot of people bought at 50. And so I think something that a lot of people are trying to get to grips right now is that we've seen bear markets, we've seen crypto winters, but these are like losses that no one has really experienced before. And given that both of you have been in the space for a while, like what is your current sentiments and emotions that are kind of just going through your mind seeing these kind of losses at the moment? Jacky?
Well, I mean, for me, it's actually there's also opportunity. Yes, I got liquidated, and actually I was just telling Z and the our other colleagues, right, that actually I'm quite glad that we've been through this. You know, I think we're relatively young, and the space is still new, and we're still very, very early. The other way to look at it, right, is that if Luna continue building, all of the developers continue to build the Luna ecosystem, right now what, $3? At its peak it's $100, so it's like a 33x. That's another way to look at it, right? I mean, every crisis there's opportunity also. That's one. Second is also, I feel like on a macro perspective, you know, we have been talking about this for February already. Things are really, really bad, and I did not expect this to happen at all. And this is a completely new thing that I feel like, okay, now we've been through this already. How do we come out of this stronger? How do we learn from this? For me, it's okay, if euphoria becomes very intense, that's probably a top signal. I mean, right now on hindsight, it's very, very easy to say, right? And for the longest time, you know, there's also saying that it's an open secret that, you know, Anchor Protocol is a Ponzi scheme. We have to wait for you know, Luna to top up the interest rate, the 20% interest rate. I think it's an open secret also. And the stuff that they're doing is also, you know, it can be borderline Ponzi. It has to be sustained by people coming to the ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
And I think on hindsight, you know, these are the signs that it was right in front of us, and we choose to ignore it because we are blinded by, oh wow, we're gonna make a lot of money and the greeds and gains, right? Yeah. So I think these are the lessons that we need to learn. This liquidation thing also taught me a lot about, hey, you know, all those layer ones, right, that we are all very, very bullish on. Actually, when it mattered, it couldn't deliver.
Yeah, the same with Phantom.
Yeah, so the same thing I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, right? I'm losing my confidence in Phantom. I'm still holding it because it's same as I'm holding Luna. Dude, I got no back already, right? So Phantom, same thing. When it mattered, I couldn't execute the transaction to basically withdraw my money. Luna, yesterday when the liquidation started, when I was liquidated, I had some loan that I wanted to pay back so that I can save the remaining Luna lah. But I couldn't repay it back, even though I could, right? So then I'm thinking like, okay, then ETH right now relatively okay. Is it now everyone's going back to ETH? So then it's just you know, I have to rethink about all of this layer one stuff again, right? So I think that's something that I'm taking away from, you know, like all of the hot new layer ones. They say they can sustain all of the different transaction volume. When it mattered, they couldn't, right? So I think that's something that all of us really have to think about. And, you know, yes, investing is investing, you know, technically, fundamentally, all of them should be able to sustain, but then practically it couldn't lah. So I think that's something that I took away from in terms of the layer ones. In terms of liquidation and leverage, that's a learning point for me as well. Ultimately, if we scope back, all of these are just paper gains and loss lah, right? So I really believe that 5 years later, right, it cannot be all of the progress that we have made over the last 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, right, is going down to zero. Impossible. Now I also posted on the group, right, on the Telegram group, I say like Amazon at one point during the .com bubble burst, right, the drawdown for Amazon was negative 80% over 2 years.
Yep.
But I mean, Luna drawdown on negative 90% in 2 days lah. So I mean, intense lah. But Amazon, one of the best performing countries returning US equity, right, drawdown negative 80% over 2 years. After which they would go up plus 4,000% or plus 3,000+% over the next decade, right? So I think, everything is, how you scope this. And I really believe that over the next 5 years cannot be, I mean, one of our readers actually tell us I cannot really always say cannot lah, but it's just very hard to believe that the progress that we've made in a decentralized world will go to zero lah.
Yeah.
And we just have to learn from this law. Yeah.
I think that's a great point that you mentioned, right? That I think we always talk about that we were still early, and I think we are still relatively early in the space, and I think it's a good lesson for us to kind of have this kind of crash now better than like later, so that when the space kind of matures also, we'll always come back to these instances, as with like all the other instances as well, to kind of go, okay, these are certain lessons that we need to make sure that we are not overly like pushing our money in spaces that are a little bit too risky. We kind of now know what that risk looks like, because we always knew the risk existed theoretically, but now we kind of know what it looks like realistically as well. Before moving on from the topic, I just wanted to go down the route of like what actual efforts are being taken to kind of like stabilize the coin. And like, Z, you monitoring like the Twitter space at the moment, what is Do Kwon kind of saying at the moment, or is he saying anything at all?
Yeah, I think so. When the crash first started, right? So Luna actually they have this foundation called the Luna Foundation Guard.
LFG.
So basically, LFG. So purpose of that is mainly to try to support the entire Luna ecosystem. So let's say whenever any of those sort of like depegging happens, right? Then they actually use the funds from LFG to maintain the peg. But then I mean, since now, after the first crash happened, I think they actually used up almost all their reserves already. So I think they mentioned they will issue 1.5 billion in loans denominated in like Bitcoin, UST to stabilize the peg lah. But then I think now, right, so at this point in time, I think they're like almost empty already. Like, can't remember from the top of my head lah, but LFG is basically empty almost. And I think right now they are actually at the point of filming. They're actually coming up with an announcement, I think in the next few hours. So not sure what Do Kwon's gonna announce, but everyone's expecting something. But I think I mean, even with an announcement, it's still pretty hard for Luna to climb back up to their original levels of like $100 or maybe even 50 for that matter. Yeah, it's pretty hard because now they're really getting like stomped to the ground by markets. To be honest, I don't expect much from the announcement, because if they want to build back, it's still going to take a lot of time for them to climb back up to their original levels.
Yeah, I think as a time of filming again, like monitoring the news, I think there was news that LFG is trying to raise about $1 billion to try and repeg the UST. But again, like you mentioned, I think it's going to take a lot of work, especially when the markets are kind of pushing some downward pressure on both UST and Luna at the moment. So I think what I wanted to move on to right now is that Luna is cheap, right? It's $4, and when the price went down, quite a lot of people actually came to me and said, hey, then should I buy? I know what's going on. I know it's super risky, but highs of 100, right? Isn't it super cheap to buy into it right now? And to me, it would have been a quite easy yes. But given the risk at the moment, I think it could easily go down to zero. So if someone were to ask you the question right now, is it time to buy Luna? What are kind of your responses at the moment, Z?
Okay, so I actually bought Luna when it crashed, but I bought at $30. Okay, safe to say I didn't all in lah. So I actually bought at $30. Then I actually wanted to DCA even more if it does go down. And I mean, now it's at like $4-5. I mean, I still have stables. So this entire like bear market, right? Not counting the Luna crash, already expecting it. Like from a macro perspective, like US equities, the US government itself, they actually plan to do like quantitative tightening. They are gonna empty their balance sheet, so interest rates are going up. I already expected that bear market's gonna happen, but then for this specific Luna case, very very unexpected. So I bought at $30. I held most of my funds in UST, so I bought Luna at $30. Then I was planning to buy more Luna as it went down, but the thing was that UST depegged. So just now it depegged until 30 cents, I think. Then I think I just said screw it. Like, I rather just try and survive than try to catch some gains. So converted all my UST into USD instead. And as of now, I don't really have any plans to enter into Luna unless it goes like sub $1 lah. then I think the risk reward is like a lot better for me lah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also wanted to add, right? Sorry, this Luna thing, right, actually has a lot of like implications. So I mean, I'm following some tweets on Twitter also, right? There's someone saying like, you know, a lot of people really hate not really hate lah, don't like Do Kwon, right? He has a lot of like enemies also, right? But all the exchanges all also never really help him out. Like, there's no circuit breakers, there's no exchanges pausing of the exchanges, and then they're just letting everyone freely
Sell off lah.
sell and whatnot, which they should, like, because it's an open market, right? I think that's one thing. And then like this whole Luna, it dropped from like, you know, all-time high was like $100, 100 plus, right? Now it's like $3, like a negative 97%. Is a bit ridiculous lah. And I think in terms of regulators, right, they will probably use this as a use case to start regulating a lot of protocols also. So there will be a lot of implication on this, like, especially since like a lot of people around the world has been affected by the liquidation, and I'm quite sure they will copy and like say like, hey, why are no one protecting us? And then all the more regulators are going to come down, right? So this has very, very, very bad implication to the future of the decentralized world lah. And unfortunately, it's due to, I mean, it is due to manipulation maybe, but it's just very bad lah. And I don't think we have seen the last. I think you asked Z whether you know, should we buy or whatnot, right? I personally, I feel like it's a bit hard for Luna to go back up already, because there's also another tweet that says that for Luna or for UST to restore the peg, right, they need about, they say, tens of billions of dollars. And then on Anchor Protocol, actually there are about $4 billion worth of collateral, so which I don't know what's happening. It's actually held strongly by the price of ETH right now. And the whole TVL in the whole Luna ecosystem right now, more than half of it was actually on Anchor Protocol. And Anchor Protocol is actually the one that is sort of like serve as a powder keg to like blow up the whole liquidation and cause everything to cascade, right? And if Anchor Protocol is one of the pushing factor of what unfolded over the last 2 days, right, I think it's really gonna take a lot and a long time for us to see, you know, $30, $50, or $100 anymore, right? Right now, the market cap of Luna is like less than 2 billion right now, and it's gonna continue to go down. So I think it's a bit tough right now lah. Even if, let's say, we're not in a bear market right now, which we are, I think people just lose confidence in Luna already. Think of it, right? Like how Luna can incentivize more builders, basically giving out more grants and incentive. All of these grants and incentives comes from VCs, right? Institution backing. Are VCs going to invest in Luna right now? I think a bit tough lah, right? All of this happening right now, confidence will be GG already lah, and then it's just gonna be is I think very, very tough. A lot of things needs to work right for Terra for this to happen again lah. But I think, you know, knowing what, you know, Terra has achieved over the last 12 months, they will be back, right?
Yeah.
It's just in the next 1 or 2 or 3 months for us to expect Luna to go back to $50 is a bit unrealistic lah.
Yeah.
Right. Because the fundamentals, the fundamentals aside, right, macro wise is just very bad all across, right? So I don't think anyone should buy anything right now, I feel like, for Luna specifically.
Miracles are not going to happen overnight lah. Jacky, I just wanted to get your thoughts on something, because like you kind of mentioned about regulation, right? And I think this is a very important case study where you mentioned, I think quite a lot of regulators are going to start clamping down because of what has happened here. You mentioned that it's a bad thing for decentralization, but could it actually be quite a good thing for investor protection in the first place? Because I think you kind of alluded to this, right? In the stock market, if there is a massive sell-off of a particular stock, there could be a trading halt by the stock exchange. And the exchanges didn't help Luna in this instance. With more protection from more regulation, could this actually be a good thing for investors in the decentralization space, or at least in the crypto space in general?
It's tough. It's hard because I mean, any regulation is actually, it goes against the whole ethos of like the decentralized world,
Yeah.
right? Yes, you can actually regulate the centralized world right now, centralized exchange right now, which is what's happening right now, lah, right? They, all the regulators are clamping down on your Binance or Coinbase and all those guys, right? But the decentralized world, people will still be able to find ways for trading volume to be on the decentralized world. You can't, regulate. How can you regulate it? So I really don't know lah. So I actually don't know how that looks like. But for sure, what is gonna happen right now is that regulators gonna use this as a case study lah and say, see lah,
Yeah.
you don't want us to regulate. Now you're negative minus 97%, all want to GG, all kena liquidated. You want us to come in or not? Then everyone will be like, oh, okay lah, you come in lah. So, which is also very bad, right? So, I actually don't really know. Regulation is good lah, but 50-50 on this lah.
I think where I was kind of going with that is that, I think more people entering the space is kind of good for the space, but there are a lot of people who kind of need that sort of protection or regulation for them to have that confidence to go in. We're thinking of people like Web2 people who haven't entered Web3 yet but are interested in investing, and sometimes it requires some level of regulation. I know it's kind of against the ethos of decentralization, but it may encourage more people to enter knowing that, hey, actually there's some risk protection available in that sense lah.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically it's very good. Practically it's very hard to execute lor. It's just very hard. Everyone is still trying to figure out lah. Yeah, but I think that's in terms of regulation lah. Another thing that I thought would be worth sharing, right, is also I spoke to someone and I asked him, like, because he was around in 2017 2018 crash. I wasn't there because I was just buying ETH and I don't know the whole world decentralized world and the layer ones and stuff like that, right? So I asked him, how is it like right now versus back in 2017, 2018? And he said the Luna liquidation feels very similar to the bottom in 2018.
Okay.
So that's good news. The second thing that might happen this year is that Bitcoin liquidation. And what it means is basically, there are people, institutions, basically they are longing Bitcoin. And what happens is that if Bitcoin crashes below their entry point and then they don't have enough collateral, and then it will just be liquidated all the way, and then it will be a cascading, the same thing as what's happening in Luna lah. I think if that happens, I feel like that is almost certainly
We all did.
a lot of people will be GG, but I think that is almost certainly a bottom already lah. It will feel like hell all over the place, and there's just bad news every single day, and then indicators will be like 1 on a scale of 1 to 100, right? So this is like max fear. Right now I think we're at 11 or 10, which is actually very, very bad already. Right now it's basically for Terra, right? It's basically stablecoin DPEG, right? Which is a very, very big issue already. And the next big thing that might happen is basically Bitcoin liquidation. And I think that is almost certainly a bottom already lah. Then someone tell me also, like, if that happens, right, a lot of people will fill in their buy order already also. So everyone will chong in already. So if I feel like if Bitcoin hit 25k, 20k, or even less than 20k, there will be a lot of buy orders already lah. So that might happen lah. So I think just need to watch out for new buying opportunities, because these are all great price entry points that was not available for us in the last 12 months to 18 months, and all of a sudden the window will open for a short period of time for us to really accumulate for the next big bull run lah. If you still believe that the technology is here to stay lah.
Yeah, so going back to that point, right, like, I think what's going on with Luna at the moment is kind of triggered by a lot of mass selling. Obviously, like, maybe it started off as market manipulation, but then it triggered a lot of people mass selling across the board. And if we look at a lot of institutions coming into the crypto space, buying up a lot of, like, Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, like hedge funds and things like that, if all it takes is one or a couple of hedge funds or institutions to suddenly decide to liquidate their positions in a particular cryptocurrencies, isn't this a massive risk in the future for crypto in general?
Yeah, I think definitely like if you're talking about just one hedge fund doing that, might not affect the market as severely as compared to if all of them just get together and just decide to do one single mass liquidation, which I think brings us back to the point just now lah. I mean, regulation, yes, there, even though like Bitcoin, crypto in general, decentralized, we definitely need regulation to protect every single party, like not only the whales lah, but also like retail investors. And I think right now what we're seeing, like the exchanges never really step up to prevent any liquidations or whatnot, and right now retail investors are getting burned lah. So I think there needs to be a balance lah of regulation, but I mean, just to protect every single party lah. Because if you don't have any sort of regulation, then whales manipulate the market. Like, that's a fact. Normal retail investors like us, like, we don't have that much funds to move markets, and we can only like just try and ride the waves, but we cannot like create the waves as like those hedge funds do lah. So brings us back to a point that I think there definitely is a need for regulation lah, to a certain extent.
Great point. Okay, so before we wrap this up, Jacky, do you have any final parting thoughts in general about what has happened so far?
Wow, it's okay to feel very sian. Yeah, and I mean, if you haven't sold, and then you feel like, wow, what an idiot, so don't worry, because I think there's a lot of people like yourself and myself. I haven't sold anything. I got liquidated. And you know, talk to someone if you feel like damn sian about this whole thing, but know that you know, we're still early and it's okay, we'll make it all back, and it's just a phase and just zoom out to the next 5 years time frame. Like this year, I tell myself that, I think one of the previous podcasts I say, like, the way I look at my portfolio is basically I look at it on the 1st of January and end of December, right? I feel like, okay, right now I'm very far out of reach in my December already. Then I fine tune my mindset, I'll take a look at my portfolio in the next 5 years later, whatever lah. So I think know that, you know, economically we can only progress. It just doesn't make sense macroeconomically to be in a slump for the next 30 years. 是不可能的事情嘛. So if we have 30 years later to retire, then so be it, right? So we will move forward economically, and macro will always improve. It's just human nature to want to improve things, to increase productivity, to find more efficient way of improving lives and more efficient way of moving stuff. And blockchain is that one technology that facilitates all of this. And macro wise, we're going to improve, and when macro improve, we'll all look back at today and like, why did I not buy more? Right? So it's okay to feel disheartened. I'm actually coping very hard also. So you know, I'm just smoking my own copium, right? I just tell myself everything's gonna be okay, and I'm just trying to, like, you know, brainwash myself that whatever lah, you know. So it's okay to feel sian, and but I think the worst thing to do right now is actually give up on the crypto market. Even if you stay in stablecoin, also that's fine. Don't want to invest, that's fine also. But just dip a little bit of your toe into what's happening in the crypto space or Web3 space over the next 6 months, 12 months. If you feel sian and you want to take a break, that's fine also. But don't completely give up on the space, right? Because the actual companies in the world that's building real use cases, real utilities using the blockchain, and they're all gonna be here to stay lah. And the same thing that I'll tell people, like Amazon, you know, they draw down 80% over 2 years, 80%, and then after that they went to return 3,600% of almost 4,000% return over the next decade. And I think these are all just paper gains and loss. I'm just trying to brainwash myself right now also. So
No. Yeah. I think it's a great point. I think earlier also you mentioned, like, you know, for speaking to people who were there in 2017, like, look how long it took for us to actually recover, and we came back so much stronger, right? I think 2017 to 2021, where it really kind of like kind of boomed back again, that was almost 4 years. And so the real important thing is to zoom out and have a little bit of perspective. The recovery from crypto in general probably won't take that long. To recover from your Luna position maybe will take a little bit longer. Like you said, it won't be the next 3 months or 6 months. It might take a little bit longer. But I think the most important thing right now is to zoom out, have a little bit of perspective, take a little bit time off if you need to, because this is a very emotional game at the end of the day. You know, when you have something so like personal like money, it's so easy to get emotional about the whole thing. And I think, like you mentioned, you know, it's okay to take a bit of time off. Don't give up on the space entirely, and we're all gonna make it eventually. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode of the Chain Debrief podcast. If you need to talk about it, the comment section is down there, full of people who are in similar positions to yourself. Get conversing. We also have a Telegram group, and you can also get conversing over there. The links are all down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye bye.